Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we have to talk about the 2023 car recession, aka the best time to buy a car in years. Before getting to this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more content just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post these videos every single day. Let's get into it. Now, to properly explain the 2023 car recession, we have to quickly give a recap of the last couple of years. So if you've been living under a rock and don't know, 2020 and 2021 were pretty crazy because car prices just absolutely skyrocketed. We had most used car categories increase in price by over 40% because there was so much demand and not nearly enough supply. But those prices obviously weren't sustainable because people were literally paying over original MSRP for cars that were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Like, that doesn't make sense. In a normal car market, cars that are 2, 3, 4, 5 years old are going for significantly under MSRP, and that's why people would purchase used cars in the past, because they could get a better deal than if they purchased new. And so this caused a lot of interesting demand dynamics because, yeah, you had people overpaying for used cars, but then you also had people diving in and overpaying for new cars because they're like, well, if the used ones are so expensive, might as well overpay for the new one because at least it's new. And yeah, just a crazy situation. But like I said, not sustainable. And so at the beginning of 2022, prices started to come down. It was a trickle at first, and then it became a flood, and we are still in the middle of the flood. Most car categories have lost about 20% in value, and there's still quite a bit more to lose, and that's what we're going to talk about. Let's first wrestle with the question of how long is it going to take the car market to bottom out? Is it going to be a few weeks? Is it going to be a few months? Or is it going to be a few years? And it really is going to depend on the vehicle category that you're looking into. And so let's kind of dive into some broad categories. First off, luxury cars. Luxury cars are actually probably going to see their bottom sooner than other car categories because they're getting hit really hard right now. Because most of the market wants inexpensive, fuel-efficient, reliable transportation. I've been saying this over and over again, but this is what people are looking for. And luxury cars don't typically fit this, unless it's something from like Lexus, for example. That might fit that, but most luxury manufacturers focus on technology that isn't necessarily the most reliable, and they also focus on performance rather than efficiency. So people are pulling back a massive amount. And so when it comes to the luxury market, with the declines that I'm seeing, it looks like most luxury cars are going to get into the price ranges they were at prior to the pandemic, sometime at the end of the year with certain cars and the beginning of next year with other cars. And so we might see the bottom of the luxury car market sometime this year or early next year with the declines. And yes, there is a chance they might go below pre-pandemic levels, but I see that as unlikely because we've seen so much inflation, and we haven't seen wage growth that has kept up with inflation, but we've seen enough wage growth that people will start to see these cars for certain prices and they're gonna be like, ooh, that is appealing. Then they'll start buying, and that'll kind of help level things out. Now, the next broad category is going to be big trucks and SUVs, and they're actually in a similar situation as luxury cars where demand has all but dried up. And so the values are declining at a rapid rate. And because these big trucks and SUVs have become so expensive, the value declines are pretty big. I've seen some vehicles lose $5,000 to $10,000 in value in just a week because of how much demand destruction there is for these vehicles. And so with the bottom on these vehicles, because there's enough of them that are from non-luxury manufacturers, I think it's going to take a little bit longer for the bottom to occur. I don't think we're going to see it this year, but early next year or into the spring next year, there is a chance that we could see some sort of price bottom with the used car market because of just how much these vehicles cost nowadays with all of the inflation that we've had and the fact that people don't want cars that aren't fuel efficient. The next broad category is going to be sports cars / specialty vehicles. So think new releases like the new Toyota Supra manual, for example, the Ford Bronco Raptor, stuff that is just either hard to get or is enthusiast based with the market that is trying to target. Now, with a lot of these vehicles, they tend to go for over MSRP even in a normal car market. And so it's really hard to judge where these cars are going to sit. However, there is a huge push against over MSRP pricing on any cars, especially these enthusiast-based cars, because a lot of people want to use these cars as they were intended. Like with the off-road vehicles, people want to take them off-road, so they don't want to pay $40,000, $50,000 over MSRP, because then it puts the car into a price range that's so expensive that taking it off-road doesn't make any sort of sense because of the amount of money that you would lose. And then same thing with the performance cars. People want to take them on racetracks, have fun with them. And if they pay huge premiums over MSRP, again, they don't want to take it on a racetrack because they'd lose so much money. And so with this category, it's going to take quite a bit of time. I don't even think we're going to see a bottom next year with most of these cars because demand is so high and supply is so low. And that's on purpose by manufacturers to keep demand high. So 2022, probably not going to happen. 2023, probably not going to happen. But by 2024, if interest rates are still really high, people are going to question if they should go and buy a new fun toy. And so that's where you might see prices start to level off with those categories. The next broad category is going to be your average everyday vehicles. So think stuff like Toyota Corolla, Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V. You know, when you think of cars that are built in massive numbers that are affordable, that's kind of what this category is. And this category is going to be the one that is going to take quite some time to hit any sort of bottom, because this is the category where there is a ton of demand. Because again, people want fuel efficient, reliable, affordable transportation. And a lot of cars in this category, not all cars, but a lot of them tend to meet that criteria. And so until there has been enough demand destruction in this category, i.e. enough people have traded out of their expensive, not fuel efficient, not reliable vehicles into these vehicles, we're not going to see the prices hit any sort of bottom. And so with this category, I don't think we're going to see any sort of, price decreases. We'll see a little bit with the used side, but definitely not with the new side at the end of 2022 or even throughout most of 2023. Again, by 2024, there might be some, but it's too soon to tell with this category. The next broad category is going to be electric vehicles, and this is going to be kind of mixed. It's going to depend on where the vehicle sits in terms of its category and whether it's new or used. Obviously, on the new market, demand is continuing to increase, but on the used market, the demand just isn't there. People don't really want to buy used electric vehicles because they're worried about long-term reliability, especially when it comes to the batteries, because batteries are very expensive to replace. And so the used electric car market is probably going to follow a similar trend to large trucks, SUVs, and luxury vehicles, except I see the prices continuing to decline with electric vehicles. And I know some people might argue with me on this point, but here's the deal. Until we have more proven reliability with some of the technology with these electric cars long-term, especially with the batteries, and until we have a lower cost option to replace batteries in the future, they're just not going to have the resale value used, because people want reliable transportation. If they're going to buy a used car, they don't want to have to fork out $20,000, $30,000 to replace a battery. The next broad category is going to be hybrid vehicles, and this is actually the last category I'll go over in today's video. So with hybrid vehicles, I don't think there's actually going to be a bottom for these because there's so much demand. People are realizing that they want to go hybrid rather than full electric, even though automakers are pushing for EVs, and even though you're going to see the media talk about EVs and how they are the future, in reality, hybrids are the future, because right now you can get a hybrid for significantly less compared to an electric counterpart, and they're not as efficient, but they're almost as efficient, especially if it's a plug-in hybrid. Consumers are realizing this, and consumers are wanting to go that route. And so resale value is going to be really strong for time to come into the foreseeable future. And the new car prices, well, there's going to be tons of pricing power because people are just buying up hybrids like crazy. And so this is one category where I say that there probably isn't going to be any sort of bottom. Now this leads us into talking about how far car prices will fall. And I'm just going to put this out there right now. I think they're going to fall to below pre-pandemic levels, and it's for a number of reasons. First off, even though we keep getting told that we are not in a recession, everything is indicating that we are most likely in a recession, and it's probably going to be even worse in 2023. And so when we look at where car prices will go, we can't look at 2018, 2019 levels of pricing, because 2018, 2019 wasn't a recession. But 2008, 2009, right? That was a recession, and car prices absolutely plummeted. And so when we have a situation where people pushed prices up to over 40% compared to what they were before, and now prices are starting to fall because there is no more demand, and they're falling at the same time that we're in a recession, well, they're probably going to fall to below what they were before. And so my guess that I feel like is pretty conservative is probably 10 to 20% below pre-pandemic levels. And in some cases, it's probably going to be even more with certain categories. Because again, when we get more information about what's happening with the economy, when more people get laid off, less people are going to want to purchase cars. And even people that have money to purchase cars are probably not going to want to purchase cars because they're going to be freaked out. They're going to be like, well, these cars are losing a ton of value and the economy is not doing so great. Like, purchasing cars is the last thing on my mind. The thing that I want to focus on is just staying afloat. And so it'll be an interesting situation because the best time to buy is probably the time that you're not going to want to buy, similar to when the stock market bottoms out, because it's going to be like, oh, everything is on fire. I'm just going to take a step back and not have anything to do with it. But then you're going to realize a few months later, oh, wait, I probably should have purchased something back then because the prices are now higher yet again because everything has now rebounded from that bottom. Now, with all this information, how can you use this to help you out as a buyer so that you can purchase a car at the best possible time? First off, you need to be in a situation where you can actually take advantage of buying a car at the best possible time. And that means being able to pay cash. Now, in the past, I've said, hey, financing is fine, but that's when interest rates were like 2.99%, not 8.99% like they are in most cases today. And so even if the car market declines by another 10, 20%, you're still not going to be getting a great deal if you're financing because you're still going to be paying a ton of money in interest. And so the only way to truly take advantage of that situation is to be able to pay cash. So start making smart financial decisions so that you can have more money saved up. So, maybe that means like what all the finance YouTubers say, buy less iced coffee, right? Don't go on those crazy extravagant vacations. Stop throwing money at stupid things, right? Just pull back on your spending, save as much money as you possibly can so that you have enough cash on hand to buy the car that you want to purchase in full. That will be the best possible thing that you can do with everything that's happening in the market. And if you don't happen to be in a situation where you will ever be able to pay cash, then what I'd have to say is you're just going to have to wait until interest rates come down, because there is going to be a happy medium where interest rates are relatively low and buying demand is relatively low. And I know that that might not seem like it makes sense because we just went through a market where interest rates were extremely low and that pushed buying demand through the roof. But again, you got to remember 2020 and 2021 were a complete anomaly because of everything that happened in the world. I experienced a car market where interest rates were pretty low. I was able to get customers loans under 3% on a regular basis with vehicles, and they were also getting huge discounts on those vehicles. I'm talking, 10, sometimes 20% off of MSRP in some cases. And don't expect that to happen across the board because some manufacturers just don't have that kind of markup in vehicles. Some do. But the point that I'm trying to make is there will be a happy medium for you as a buyer where you'll be able to get a low interest rate and you'll be able to get a big discount on a car. But that means you're going to have to wait quite a bit more time compared to a cash buyer, because what is most likely going to happen is the market is going to hit a price bottom, and this is where the cash buyers are going to want to swoop in and get the cars that they've been waiting for, and then the market's going to start to increase from that point. And when it hits this bottom, right, the rest of the economy is also going to be in the bottom because the car market actually follows the overall economy pretty well. And so you're going to see, the federal government most likely be like, okay, let's pull back on those interest rate increases. Actually, let's start decreasing interest rates. And so again, demand will slowly start to rise, but we will also most likely see manufacturing increasing at the same time, because this is most likely not going to happen for at least a year, maybe 2 years at this point. And so that's where that happy medium will be for you as someone who's financing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, with my estimates, cash buyers are probably going to have a buying time sometime in the next 6 to 12 months. People that are financing are probably going to have a good buying time in the next 24 to 36 months. Hopefully that helps you guys out. If you want to see more content like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post these videos every single day. I'll see you.